Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this third masterclass of the prologue of the International Artistic Residence in Constanța. This masterclass will be coordinated by the Museum of National History and Archaeology of Constanța, Romania. Of this project, ETERIA, that I will say something about the project for introduce the masterclass. ETERIA, that means the enhanced transborder experiences, rebuild interactions of artists, is an international project coordinated by the Italian Center of International Theatre Institute, in partnership with Teatro Zakynthos of Greece, the National Historical and Archaeological Museum of Constanța from Romania, the North Macedonian Center of International Theatre Institute, and the Augmented and Virtual Reality Lab of the Department of Engineering for Innovation of University of Salento from Italy. The project is supported by Creative Europe program of the European Union, the strength culture of the cooperation projects. As said yesterday, the project aims to create innovative models in the field of social and community theater and conflict transformation through the performing arts, based on audience engagement and intercultural artistic practices. This masterclass is at the beginning of this residence that let's say that will start tomorrow in presence with many activities coordinated by the museum, the MINAC. These activities are inter-community labs, many activities with community, with young people, the schools, with artists, with social and cultural operators, and we are glad to meet our colleagues, our friends from Romania in the next days. Some of us will start tomorrow. We will arrive there tomorrow. We will arrive there in 2 days. And so I let the floor to the museum. If you wanted to introduce the speakers of today, we have very important speakers. We have Cristina-Georgeta ALEXANDRESCU, and Adriana-Claudia CİTEIA. I hope that I said good the names, and I let the floor to Andrea or to Christian, who want to introduce all the masterclass. Thank you to everybody to attend this meeting, and enjoy.
Okay, it's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I won't take much of your time because we want to hear the speakers, what they have to say. It is important today. Just one small change in the program. Probably you didn't know that our colleague Cristina-Georgeta will not have a presentation today. Only in the in-presence masterclass, so the one from the next week. Today we have 2 speakers, and first we would like to start because I assume that Mrs. Cristina Alexandrescu, it is not connected yet. I don't know exactly. So in that case, we will start with Professor Adriana-Claudia CİTEIA, professor at the Faculty of History and Political Science at Ovidius University in Constanța. She's a specialist in mythology and, of course, in female myths. So this is why she will have a very interesting presentation today called The Dual Mother Hecate, which is the subject of the current masterclass. So let's just let's just start. So, Professor CîTEIA, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope the sound is good. It's very nice. It's a great pleasure to be with you today and Monday, and to tell a story about Hecate, and Monday about Demeter, Core, and Baubo. I'm trying to establish some fundamental points in sacred drama and in mysteries of Hecate and Demeter. But the sources are very, very hard to attend. We have three fundamental sources, and I will use them today. Hesiod, Theogony, the Orphic hymn of Hecate, and of course the Homeric hymn to Demeter, but today only the verses regarding Hecate. First thing I must say is that Hecate is one of the most enigmatic Greek deities. A clear-cut description of her is very difficult, considering the amounts of information that have survived concerning her. It leaves only a few clues as to the nature of her cult, and these are uncertain. In late classical and Hellenistic eras, her character had taken one somehow defined shape. Mistress of ghosts, night wanderer, patroness of witches, worshipped in close association with Artemis, Demeter, Core, and Hermes. Hecate's original homeland is uncertain, from Greece or from a neighboring land. The first theory is untenable, but the second hypothesis might be argumented. Farnell noticed that the worship of Hecate is significantly absent from the interior of Greece. More secluded areas of Greece, such as Arcadia, where she has no part in the cult of Demeter, Erimis, and Despoina, although elsewhere she is closely connected with Demeter. Humbert begins to talk using an example of a short quotation in Pausanias, Book 1, from Hesiod's Catalogue of Women, in which Iphigenia is transformed by Artemis into Hecate. This seems to be the first connection between Hecate and Artemis in Greek literature. Thus, by means of this early literature, Farnell locates the cult of Hecate as Iphigenia in the Chersones and Boeotia. But in the quotation from the Catalogue of Women, she was a maiden goddess, as in the Homeric hymn to Demeter. In Theogony, she is a Greek goddess, as in the Orphic hymn to her. Farnell links also Artemis Peraia in Thessaly with the Thracian goddess Bendis, whose worship included orgiastic rites, much like that of Cybele. A Thessalian legend makes Hecate the daughter of Peraia, who was exposed at the crossroads, but was rescued by shepherds. The theonym Peraia is very important to us because it comes from the Greek term peras, frontier, border. The Greek term peras is synonymous in a strict meaning with horos. In Phaedon 67, the semantics of the border transition is dominated by the verb poreumai, to travel in an unknown hostile space, and the noun used to designate this transition status is apodemia. Horas, peras, defines in the Greek antique vocabulary the limit between up and down, between knowledge and lack of knowledge. Perasis means passing, crossing, transforming. So the term was used in the classic thinking to indicate the uplifting and descending of the soul through the planetary spheres and the crossing of the frontiers between the seven skies. So, coming back to the idea, peras, limes, perasis, all these terms had a profound symbolic substratum. Crossing the frontier and its extension were part of the political ceremony and ritual of the government, but also part of the group of religious rites for passing over. the limits of the inhabited territory marked by an act of sacred horothesia had in antique and medieval conception an apotropaic role. The interdiction securing was ensured in the Roman world by frontier divinities like Hermes, Priapus, Hecate, or Janus. In Diodorus Siculus' Bibliotheca, Book 4, Medea is related to Artemis, but Medea is usually considered to be the priestess of Hecate. Her cult was known to exist from the 5th century BC, and Thracian Orpheus was the original establisher of the annual Telete ceremonies, sacred ceremonies of Hecate. Hecate was also confused with Cretan goddess Britomartis. Finally, the island of the Thracian Sea, Samothrace, are known to have been centers of the cult to Zerinthia, a goddess identified with Hecate in connection with Cabeiroi and Corybantes. In connection with Hecate as gatekeeper are objects called guloi, stone cubes, possibly originally identified with the actual deity regarding Apollo Agieus. Apollo as a doorkeeper remains until the time of Aristophanes, when he's placed as Propulaios before the doors of the houses, together with a Hecataion representing Hecate Propulaia, but this function dies out for Apollo Agieus. For the derivation of her name, Hecaton, Hecas, Hecatos, occasionally given to Artemis, it is probably that the older conception of Artemis divided when the goddess was brought into relation with Apollo, that on the one hand, the Olympian Artemis became the ideal of maidenhood in all its purity. Then, on the other hand, weird and half-magical rites gathered about an Artemis Hecate, who came to be more and more a goddess of the night and of all that was uncanny. In Homeric hymn to Demeter, Hecate is called Atala, Atale, simply, young, naive, innocent, in contrast with Helios, for which the appellative used is Aglaos, famous. Daughter of Perses, as in Hesiodic Theogonia, where the appellative is monumenes, only child, Hecate wears a glamorous ornament of ribbons, liparocredemnos, in the hymn. In the Orphic hymn, she wears a krokopelos, a colored robe, and she is both chore and kurotrophe. See also Theogonia. The appellative Atala indicates his innocence, his non-involvement in the episode of the Chore, Persephone's abduction, because the usual ancient Greek term for the simple is haplos, not Atala, and for young woman is Chore, adjective used for Persephone, not Atala. So Hecate is Atala, innocent, and Persephone is Chore, young. In the Orphic hymn, she has the appellative Trioditis, goddess of the three roads, meaning the sky, the earth, and the sea in the text. Hecate heard the cries of Persephone from his cave, and from the cave, the Greek ancient term was anthros. The term used for cave, so is anthros, not the usual term speos. This can suggest the sacred character of the diurnal location of the goddess. In Homeric hymn to Demeter, Hecate appears in 3 places, verses 24, 51, 438, as daughter of Persaios. She is the deity who walks before the Greek goddess Demeter, bearing torches to light the path. The hymn links Hecate with Demeter and Persephone, goddesses of fertility and underworld, but she is a torchbearer like Demeter, Persephone, and Artemis. She is a goddess of crossroads, a goddess who meets Antaia Thea, verse 51, Anodia Thea, like in Sophocles' Antigona. In the hymn of Demeter, Hecate has chthonic tendencies, underworld tendencies. But in this poem, her role is centered around the fact that while she was abiding in her cave, she witnessed the rape of Persephone by hearing her screams for help. At the end of the hymn, Hecate became a companion to Persephone. Magic and metamorphosis through magic seems to be typically feminine in ancient Greek and Roman culture. Hecate can be a central figure of a set of goddesses who have generated the late medieval tradition of the ladies of the night. She appears to be associated with darkness, ghost, witchcraft. Hecate is a triple symbol of birth, death, and rebirth, and through her symbolism, the dog, the snake, the torch, the key, points psychologically to the self. So the whole drama takes place in an inner self, in the individual's own psyche, where the mother is an image, imago, of eternal feminine, of a primordial world of archetypal possibilities. The dynamism of this world is represented by theriomorphic symbols, as dogs and snakes, representing in Jungian approach an undifferentiated libido. In Jungian approach, as I said, libido is therefore tied to define intensity of affects, activities, parts of personalities. This is the anthropoid psyche, which is not rational but can be explored to regression, katabasis or katodos. In Egyptian myth of Isis and Osiris, the dogs and jackals devour of corpses by night and assist in the reconstitution of Osiris. The Persians used to throw out their corpse for the dogs to devour, but they also had the custom to place a dog to the beside of a dying man who had to give the dog a morsel to eat. Just as Kerberos was pacified with the honey cakes when Heracles began his journey to hell. Dog sacrifices were offered to ETERIA, to the goddess of birth, and Hecate herself. The dog is a regular companion of Aesculapius, Asclepius, the god of healing. So we see as obvious the link between death, birth, and rebirth in association with three gods, ETERIA, Hecate, and Asclepius, Aesculapius. The snake was a symbol of solitude, who surrounds the man, threatening, constricting, symbolizing the fear of death and separation of the mother, for the relation to the mother must cease, must die. And this is almost the same as dying oneself. But the violence of separation is necessary as the condition of rebirth, as condition of individuation, knowledge of the self. It is also the separation of the unconscious and desire, and the beginning of seeking reason. The snake is a mark of underworld Chthonian spirit and has also a protective nature. So the dual mother is linked with the double birth of the hero. The hero in Greek mythology is not born like an immortal, because his birth is a natural one, and his rebirth is a symbolic one. One of the mother is real, human, and the other is supernatural, and can be represented as stereomorphic. Hecate as a mother of death and rebirth, double mother, can be seen from a note in Malalas of Antiochia, who says that in the city of Antiochia, Diocletian dedicated a crypt to Hecate. The Hecate mysteries flourished in Rome towards the end of the 4th century AD. She was a spoke goddess of night and phantoms. In Hesiod Theogony, she is counted the patron goddess of riders. It is she who sends Empusa, Lamia, who rushed out upon women and children from dark places. Lamiae were credited with being predators of young men whom they tempted sexually before devouring. We can detect some similarities with spirits of Mesopotamia. Lamashtu may be the original of Lamia, and a type of Mesopotamian demon called Gala. Lamiae were nocturnal specters who terrified children. The original legend is that Lamia seduced Zeus, but Hera caused her to bring only dead children into the world. Ever since then, the raging Lamia has persecuted children, whom she destroys whenever she can. The Lamiae are typical nightmares of feminine nature. Hecate and Hermes tended to be associated with magic itself. She was regarded as a guide of souls to the land of dead, of newborn babies into this world, Hecate is called in Hesiodictogonia Kurotrophos, Kurotrophe. And in the Orphic hymn, the appellatives are the same. The Orphic hymn describes her as mystery raving with the souls of the dead, a possible reference to her role as their escort to Hades. But there is also a Hecate Aphrodisias. Her symbols are the key, the whip, the dagger, and the torch. All of them are dual symbols of what is allowed and what is not. Hecate as torchbearer, light bearer, relates to the moon. We have in the Orphic hymn some appellatives like phosphoros, daiduchos, purphoros. The torch can be a symbol of creativity, guidance. The two sides of the torch may symbolize both the mysteries of the underworld and the metamorphosis of the upper world. The key is a symbol of her role as gatekeeper to the greater mystery of the cosmos. The world is a tomb, but one would transcend the full form and become one with the cosmic soul. And this is the same idea as in the Orphic thinking. As a great key holder, Hecate was believed to close the boundaries of things within cosmos, and she was bestowed with the ability to bind together and harmonize different elements. As guardian of the gate of Hades and as triple-bodied goddess of dogs, she is somewhat identical with Kerberos. She sent madness and moon sickness, an invasion by the unconscious in the conscious mind. In the Hecate mysteries, a wand, Leukophilos, was broken. In Leukophilos, we can recognize the motif of the sacred tree and the mother who might not be touched. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, the patron goddess of Medea, but as an important part of Greek syncretism, she is confused with Artemis, who was also called Hecate, the far-hitting. Artemis is the huntress with hounds, and Hecate is also a huntress prowling at night. She is identified with Brimo as the underworldly mother, with Persephone, with Rhea, the mother of all, with Eileithyia. As I said, she has the appellative Kurotrophe in both in Hesiodic and Orphic. She is placed in the same hymns in the center of the world, like Aphrodite and Gaia. But Hecate was also the pillory where criminals were scourged. As Roman trivia, to her were dedicated junctions of 3 roads, fork roads, and crossroads. Where the roads branch off or meet, dog sacrifices were offered to her and thrown out the bodies of the executed. Here is the symbol of the union of the opposites. But the crossroad also symbolized separation, splitting, cutting, division. In a symbolic way, she helps souls navigate crossroad between the world of the living and the underworld of the dead. Without her help, the soul might wander between worlds for eternity. Therefore, the meaning of a sacrifice would be the gain of the mother in both senses. In Jungian approach, every psychological extreme secretly contains its own opposite, stands in some intimate relation with it. The most important message about Hecate as a mother of deaths, as a thanatoid mother, is that through introversion, self-knowledge, one is regenerate and reborn. Crossroads are liminal spaces, undefined, outside the rules of the world, separating life and death. Doors, gateways, rivers, crossroads are uncertain places that required special rituals. They marked the beginning of a journey outside one's home protection, outside the familiar topos place. But crossroads also require the capacity of choose, in the way of Greek term telos. The crossroad identity implies the uncanny, the unfamiliar, the sitting outside the normal rules. A crossroad placed the pilgrim or the hero outside of what we call in Greek, in ancient Greek, dasmos, as destiny and well-known structure of the world. Hecate was a goddess of liminality, of transitions. The crossroads represented the things that Hecate was protecting people from, like ghosts, tricky spirits, physical threats. Crossroads represent transition in time, as I said, life, death, rebirth, or cosmological transitions. That has his own crossroads, influenced by the mythological and philosophical approach. Crossroad rituals included protection, petitioning deities or spirit for assistance, devotion rites, purification. Apollonius of Rhodos said that the ancients made certain sacrifices to Hecate. The petitionary ritually cleanse themselves, dig a hole, dress in a dark garment, make a sacrificial offering, turning away and not look back, indicative of working with underworld deities. Hecate appears as a singular character or as a triple-faced collection of women, sometimes associated with the bulls. The etymology of the term Hecate, Hecaton, may be related with her ritual sacrifices, maybe that sacrifices in which were offered 100 oxen, or because she was supposed to possess the power of compelling the ghost of the unburied who were doomed to walk the earth for 100 years, or because in the Pythagorean thinking, 10 times 10 being 100, the number of harmony potentially connected with Hecate, considered in this position a goddess of harmony and perfection. Hecate trimorphis, triformis, triceps, as in Ovidius' Metamorphosis, was often represented with a torch, which suggests this game, light, dark, life, death. She was also a goddess of fertility, victory, success. She was believed to support farmers, travelers, soldiers, to support those who wanted to attain virtue and good judgment, as in the text of Theogony, Hesiod Theogony. Hecate's evolution from Greek goddess with solar attributes to goddess of magic and cosmic life force is augmented by her genealogy. In her family, we can find, via Zeus overthrowing the Titans, the Titanid element, but he helped Zeus to victory, Hesiod. Her divine ancestors were associated with oracles and prophecy, Phoebe and Cesus, the sea and forces of the wind, Creus, brother of Cesus, her grandfather, divination by dreams, Asteria and Perses, her parents in Hesiod's Theogony. In other accounts, Hecate is the daughter of Demeter. We shall talk about that Monday. This equates the goddess with Persephone and Brimo, the terrifying one, associated with the Roman goddess Bonadea, a goddess of healing. Hecate can be equated also with Gorgona Medusa, who maintains spiritual boundaries between different realms of existence. Graia and Baubo, equated with rebuilt hammer. This image of triple mother is structured on three identitary hypostases of the goddess. Selene in heaven, Artemis on earth, and Persephone in hell. But at the same time, these three goddesses retain their own personalities and characteristics. According to Hesiod, Theogony 411, Zeus honored Hecate above all. In Orphic hymns, Ceres, Persephone, is called the mother of Hecate. Sophocles, in a lost play, Rhizotomy, invoked the sun, lord of the light, and sacred fire of Hecate. She appears, a little fragment, she appears on earth in sacred space where three roads meet, her head crowned with oak and many coils of serpents on her shoulders. It is an obviously difference between this description and the image proposed in the Homeric hymn to Demeter, where Hecate is a young and innocent goddess, Atala, wearing an ornament of ribbons on her head, Liparo Credemne, and the image in the Orphic hymn where Hecate wears a beautiful Krokopilos, and it is both Kore and Kurotrophe. Hecate is represented as a beneficent deity who has close affinities with Zeus, a goddess of older generation, born of Titan parents. Zeus lavished upon her many timai, honors, after the fall of the Titans. But strangely, the one portion of the universe not mentioned by Hesiod is the underworld, where Hecate came to have her greatest influence in the later times. She might be worshipped in combination with Poseidon as a goddess of water and fishermen, or with Hermes as an increaser of the farmers' herds. We can observe, though, that the very nature of her timai honors forces her to encroach upon the provinces of the universe. Dasmos is a province of the cosmos, but with the approval of Zeus. In all these passages, she shows no connection with underworld deities, so we can observe some problems related to the Greek concept of dasmos, cosmos, order, and creativity. A hypothesis might be that we can detect even Orphic influence. The universality of Hecate's dasmoi can be understood and explained in the context of the Orphic theory of en to pan. Each of the gods is in all, and all the gods are in each of them. But in the Orphic hymn, Hecate is a dread figure of the underworld. Psychais nekon meta basheusan, said the hymn. In Orphic Argonautica, she is a three-headed monster with swords in both hands and rises from Hades. She would instruct mortals in the art of magic, send demons and spirits by night from the underworld who dwelt in tombs or near the blood of murdered person or at crossroads. She was accompanied by Stygian hounds, torch, and her hair was decorated with serpents. Hecate comes to be related with Cybele and identified, as I said, with Cretan Britomartis. The torch was also a symbol of Bendis, Bendis the Logos, epithet that might suggest that Bendis, like Hecate, had power in more than one sphere of the nature. The Thracian goddess Artemis Basilea was also connected with herds and fruits of soil. The dog has a sacred character in the worship of Asclepios of Epidaurus. So we have some symbols that bound together these appellatives of Hecate and this universality of the power of goddess. I have a fragment, a short fragment from Sophocles, Hymn to Helios and Hecate, a fragment which is from the play Rhizotomoi. And let me read you this little fragment, both in ancient Greek and in English. It is very beautiful. So, Sophocles, Hymn to Helios and Hecate. Helie despota, kai pur hieron, tes einodias Hecate echos, to di Olympu polus aferei, kai ges naius hierastriodus, Stephanusa medrui kai plectais, omon spherais draconton. O Master Helios and sacred fire, O spear of Hecate of the crossroad, which she bears as she travels Olympus and dwells in the holy triple ways of the earth, she who is crowned with oak leaves and the coils of wild snakes. So it is a subject that is not closed, but we shall not forget that we know little things about sacred drama, but we can use all these fundamental sources to try to understand what is the relation between the three moments in the sacred drama. We shall see on Monday too. What is said, what is seen, what is represented, ta legomenata, dromenata, epideiknumena, or in another version, what is to see, what is to hear, what is to understand. This is all for today. Thank you very much, and I wait for questions. And don't forget that we shall talk again on Monday about Hecate and Demeter, Persephone, Baubobrimu. Thank you very much. And the sacred drama of Eleusis, Monday about the sacred drama on Eleusis. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you also. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your presentation. I very much did. I remember the very, very small part of my classes at the university. Yeah, with our professor, Adriana-Claudia CİTEIA. Of course, maybe you noticed from the presentation, she has 3 PhDs, both in history and philosophy. This is why it's a mix, and hope this will help you to prepare the materials for the final presentation, the artistic one in Constanța here. Hopefully you found inspiration for that. So thank you very much again. Maybe, I don't know if it's fine by everyone to let the questions or...
the question will be after, yes.
After, at the end? Yes, it is
After
okay for everyone? Okay. So now I would like to invite the other speaker, Mrs. Cristina-Georgeta ALEXANDRESCU, a scientific researcher at Vasile Pârvan Institute of Archaeology in Bucharest. Also the scientific responsible at the archaeological site in Troesmis, Murighiol. So please, Mrs. Alexandrescu, if you can hear us.
Yes, hello. Thank you.
Yes, hello.
I would like to share the presentation. I have PowerPoint presentation. So it's open on my computer. I have to press this green button and then
okay.
Yeah, yes, the green button, and then you can share the screen with us.
and you can see everything or not yet?
No,
Not yet. Okay, now it's okay. We can see the presentation.
Full screen or?
Not full screen, no. Now it's okay. It's full screen.
No, it's okay. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to speak a little about another goddess that is also quite present in antiquity. Not as such well adult one as Hecate was, the one introduced by Professor CİTEIA, but a very important and present in everyday life and in a personal community and also city level. Her importance was especially the one to keep the balance, to be the goddess that assures the balance between happiness and misery, between good and evil, and has in certain historical periods, at least as far as we can trace it, different expressions, different forms of expressions, and different interpretations given by mortals to some events in their lives. Because looking back, they observe what was wrong and what should be changed. In ancient Greek religion, Nemesis, also called Rhamnusia, the goddess of Rhamnus, due to the location of one of her main sanctuaries, is the goddess who enacts retribution against those who succumb to hubris, meaning arrogance before the gods. The name is related to the Greek word nemein, meaning to give what is due. She was sometimes called Adrastea, probably meaning one from whom there is no escape. The word nemesis originally meant the distributor of fortune, neither good nor bad, simply in due proportion to each according to what was deserved. Later, nemesis came to suggest the resentment caused by any disturbance of this right proportion, the sense of justice that could not allow it to pass unpunished. The sources we have at our disposal in order to approach this deity, to understand what it meant and how it manifested itself in antiquity, are written, so texts, ancient authors and inscriptions, depictions, and also archaeological sources, meaning archaeological sites, ancient sites where sanctuaries of Nemesis have been discovered and reminiscence of the cult. Divine retribution is a major theme in the Hellenic worldview, providing the unifying theme of the tragedies of Sophocles and many other literary works. Nowadays, a nemesis is a form of punishment or any opponent a person is unable to defeat. Nemesis is a literary concept and tool that refers to a situation of poetic justice where the good characters are rewarded for their virtues and the evil characters are punished for their vices. It's omnipresent and observes everything. Those are actually elements of the so-called modern or contemporary reception of what is a very old motif. And the expression of this concept found in post-antique times again and again also an artistic form. I'm showing you here only one of the most known, which is the engraving called Nemesis by Albrecht Dürer from the 16th century. I brought here a map in order to show you some of the sites I'm going to mention in the following for your more easier orientation. So Rhamnus, it's in northern Attica. Then I'm going to speak about the site north of Ephesus, Smyrna. We're going to have some more than one example from this western shore of the Black Sea. And Troesmis, Constanta is here. And also from Dacia, from this Roman province north of the Danube, one of the border provinces of the Roman Empire, from this capital city, Sarmisegetusa. And also from Carnuntum in Pannonia, and from one side in Noricum, not figured here on the map, called Teurnia. Archaic nemesis. So I told you it's a very old deity actually, and it's completely different from the well-known pantheon of the Greek and Roman deities. So it's an archaic deity for which in archaic art we have no representations. But even if we had, it would be no surprise if she had little in the way of distinguishing attributes. Dealing with depictions, ancient depictions, we can identify divinities mainly with the help of their attributes and acolytes they are featuring. So persons, animals that are near to depicted near to by their side, and especially in the case of the female goddesses, you will observe that if those attributes were not present, there could have been also another divinity. So the distinguishing elements are always quite relevant for identifying the depicted divinity. In literature, however, Nemesis makes appearance in Hesiod and post-Homeric epic, which do provide some early characterization. In the Theogony, she is one of the assorted children of Night, of Nyx, described as a bane for mortal men, and it is in company with Eris, among other ambivalent personifications. In the Works and Days, another ancient text, we get our first description of this kind of behavior to which Nemesis is opposed. There will be no return for the man who keeps his oath, nor for the just, nor for the good, but rather men will praise the doer of evil and the man's hubris. I mentioned the site of Rhamnus with the temple. As goddess of Rhamnus, she was honored and placated in archaic sanctuary in this isolated district. You can see here this reconstructed temple of Rhamnus, from which there have been found several fragments. We are very fortunate to have a description, an ancient description of the traveler Pausanias from the 2nd century that noted her iconic statue there. It included a crown of stacks and little Nikes and was made by one of the scholars of Phidias after the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, crafted from a block of Therian marble brought by the overconfident Persians who had intended to make a memorial stele after their expected victory. There was also built this temple. The scholars have found out that the new cult statue was carved by the Phidias pupil Agorakritos. And there are several fragments found there and a number of Roman copies from which the original was possible to be reconstructed. The copies present a fairly typical goddess of the period, and indeed a number of literary sources tell stories about the statue having originally been made as an image of Aphrodite, because we do not have here all the attributes we are going to see on the other representation. Some possibly distinguishing features are also mentioned. And important is in this description by Pausanias, the mention of the images of victory, because this statue is related particularly with the Greeks' victory over the Persians at Marathon, which is not far away from Rhamnus. The story about the statue obviously plays on the topos, adding yet another instance of the barbarians' arrogance. This moral tale also appears in various epigrams in the Greek anthology, some of which dwell on the point that one side's victory at the other side, Nemesis. And I've written here one of the inscriptions from Ramnus, where which actually the stone, we can assume it's one of this block brought by the Persians. Once just a stone, the Persians brought me here so that they might set up a trophy of their victory. Now I am a nemesis. I stand for both. I am a trophy of victory for the Greeks, for the Persians, the vengeance of war. In Hellenistic and Roman iconography, I already mentioned the fact that the images of goddesses can be confused, or you can find so many resemblances that it's needed some detail to make a difference between Cybele, Rhea, Demeter, Artemis, Tyche, Fortuna. So in some provincial or small scale, small size depictions, those deities can be mixed, and there is certain relation for this, but it would need much longer discussion to develop this idea. The Hellenistic and Roman iconography made actually important a proportion that the fact that that the Nemesis was the goddess of proportion and the avenger of crime, and she has this attributes: measuring rod, a bridle, scales, sword, and a griffin. There are several so-called types or schemes that can be used in parallel, yet from the point of view of chronology, even in the same city. So the exact nuances and differences, while a certain person chooses this kind versus the other kind of depiction for his votive relief or statue, it's actually something very difficult to understand. The cult of Nemesis had a very important center in Smyrna, and on the coast of Ionia, now Izmir. In literary and visual incarnation of Nemesis in the Hellenistic and Roman periods show those attributes at one by one figure. But in Smyrna there is and there is no excellent example that dates before the 1st century BC. In Smyrna was a prototype for a cult statue. Actually, it's a form of cult in Smyrna, typical, which is actually composed by two statues, two Nemesis. And this is something so particular that was depicted and so important for the city, representative for the city, that was depicted even on the coins struck by this ancient center during a very long period of time. The double cult at Smyrna was probably established, or at least revitalized, at the time of the foundation of the Hellenistic city by Alexander's general Antigonos and Lysimachos, although the story recorded by Pausanias, again, attributes the foundation to Alexander himself, inspired by a dream in which the two Nemesis appeared to him. Although Pausanias gives no description of the cult statues, the Nemesis appear on a number of coins. And on this, the pair are always showing facing each other, one holding a measuring rod, the other a bridle, and both pulling a tephoi. On Hadrianic Christophorus, you see in the upper side of the upper part of the slide, The two goddesses appear alone, or there are some other examples where they're inside the temple. But on coins issued under Marcus Aurelius, Gordian, and Philip I, it depicted exactly this story of Alexander sleeping. You can see here, and the two Nemesis figures appearing in history. There are no statues from Smyrna, but in Troesmis there is this beautifully restored and very well known due to the finding context within the so-called sculpture board from Troesmis. This dedication, which is actually a small scale depiction of kind of temple, with the two figures of the Nemesis and a dedication in both Latin and Greek on the print by Herennius Carito. These two statuettes showed a garment which is very particular. It's an archaic sort of draping the peglos, which is this overgarment, and it's actually not tested on any other sculptures or reliefs in this detail. It was something particular or very, so to say, very interesting for the citizens in Troesmis, because we have, although in fragmentary form, another pair of such statuettes, this time on individual plinths, also from Troesmis. And which is also interesting is that this kind of statue, even if not in the context of the double Nemesis cult, is found in Dacia, in a province nearby Mercia Inferior, where marble and imported marble items, because all those have been imported from centers like either from Smyrna or even from Tassos, because the marble has showed to be from Tassos, and in Tassos there are also such depictions. And in Dacia, this statuette is dedicated to Nemesis Regina, so the form of Roman cult that is only for the most widespread, the widespread form as individual deity. However, in Dacia again, we find one of the singular epigraphic evidences on the cult of the double Nemesis. So it was more or less flexible way to deal with such pieces. What the customers could choose, and what they could afford to bring as votive for the deity, with which they needed to be in good terms. Important again by this example is that the small statuette, because the size is similar to those in Troesmis, received a huge basis, and Dacia, ancient landscape, it's actually famous for this the numerous evidence, epigraphic evidence, so many inscriptions, and dedications to Nemesis, but not so many depictions. And it's interesting when one is approaching the issue where who were the dedicants, or who were the people really dealing with this deity. The association with fortune is underlined in the case of several statues and reliefs that are found or related through their inscriptions with athletes and gladiators, but also with theaters, amphitheaters, and gymnasia, where public fights and public events took place in a way that the officialities, the Roman state, or the officials of the city financed some of those very appreciated games. And thus we have some examples of amphitheaters which included a temple or a small sanctuary for Nemesis with a statue or dedications and small or large reliefs. I'm showing here some examples. The amphitheaters featuring this temple inside, because there is again several ways in which this temple could be related to the amphitheater. One of them is in the capital of Dacia, the province I mentioned before, in Ultima Sarmisegetuza. You can see here in the foreground the structure of the temple, and in the background the arena. In Teurnia, in Noricum, was found this beautiful relief, which found also a replica with the colorful, imagined colorful layout, where you can see the fight in the arena and the goddess with near the altar. But there, the goddess looks very much, if you are looking closer, similar to Diana, to Artemis, because it has her attributes. However, the small altar is dedicated to Nemesis Augusta. And coming back to Troesmis, to Constanța, there are also such very simple reliefs showing the standing goddess with the measuring rod, the griffin, and the scale. And you will probably, if you do not know already, that in Troesmis there, among others particularities, several gravestones of gladiators. So we cannot rule out the idea that Nemesis was related in Troesmis also with the gladiatorial games with the amphitheater. In Troesmis, I'm sorry for the quality of those images, but are the only ones available to me. In 1989 was discovered also this amphitheater, which now is under one of the huge hotels. and not visitable as far as I know. But again, in Smyrna, I told you it's possible in one city to have several kinds of depiction. And you can see here, again, on coins, scholars usually consider that if it's depicted on the coin of a city, then the image should have been one of the symbols or a recognizable monument within the city. So you can observe here two different iconographical types for Nemesis. The already mentioned one standing with the attributes with the wheel and griffin, and here again a different one which we are going to discuss further, where Nemesis is winged. On this statue from Cypriot Salamis, found in a gymnasium of late 1st century date, can be observed two aspects of this Roman imperial period Nemesis. She has wings. When describing Aporacritos statue at Tramnus, Pausanias comments on the fact that neither this statue of Nemesis nor any other made by the ancients has wings. Whereas later artists who want the goddess to appear because someone is in love picture Nemesis with wings as they picture love. But most probably, these wings are not related to Eros, to the wings of Eros, but to the wings of Nike, because the wings borrowed from Nike are giving the visual expression to the idea that retribution is inescapable, and that Nemesis is indeed victory for those on the winning side. Secondly, at the Cypriot statue sits the griffin, the fantastic creature which usually has the body of a lion and the head of a bird. And the griffin's left paw was raised and rested on a whip. I'm showing here further examples for this winged Nemesis. Those are two statues from Tassos, but it's not clear if they were both. So the plan was to have them together as double Nemesis or individually. And also those smaller statuettes, one of them, the one on the right, it's very interesting because it's one of the rare examples in which a person is depicted as a goddess, because the head is a portrait. And this was a practice actually for funerary statues or reliefs to depict the deceased as a virtuous person in the shape of a god, of gods in forma deorum. Usually you can find Venus, or for men Heracles, or so Venus, Aphrodite. Aphrodite would be the Greek name, and Hercules, Heracles. What you can observe again, it's that in these depictions there is a kind of aggressiveness related to the figure of Nemesis, because he is trampling on a prostrate figure. I don't know if you can observe the small persons here. Has the wheel in the hand, And this is especially in the Trajanic period more frequent. And also in Roman time, important are this is another example related to amphitheater again, and to aggressiveness, showing all kind of symbols and weapon also. So in Roman time, again, important was the scale, the pair of scales, in order to identify nemesis. So scales and griffin were very common. Those two reliefs from Calatis, today's Mangalia, are eloquent for this different schemas that can be found in one city. On the right, you can see that the the goddess has also wings and polos, and instead of the ruler is carrying a cornucopia, corn of abundance, which is actually usual symbol for fortune, for touche. The poet Mesomedes from the 2nd century, from the court of Hadrian, and known for several hymns and for his activity as kitarodos, meaning he sang and played kitara, wrote also an hymn to Nemesis where he addressed her. I'm giving you here one of the versions of the translation. She is explicitly identified with both the justice and victory, and imagined as using the adamantine bit, the wheel, the measuring rod, and the scales. This seems to encapsulate both sides of Nemesis' potential association with violence, as the punishment she inflicts is described in such physical terms, and the offenses she condemns include both pride and hubris. I'm going to try to play at the end one of the registrations of this hymn, because this is one of the rare cases where, although both the text and the notation for the piece are preserved. I shortly referred previously to the dedicants, to what we know from the epigraphic evidence, and the conclusion of the analysis of this evidence showed that few worshippers of Nemesis in the Roman imperial period came from the lowest economic and social levels of the Roman world, and many were drawn from among public officials and military personnel. Nemesis, like other divine powers, was enlisted in the protection and promotion of the interest of the emperor, the empire, and on a local level, some municipal communities. And this is one example of such expressions is a statue from Ephesus, where you can recognize, despite the fragmentary state of preservation, that Nemesis is here wearing the crown of Touche and the corn of abundance. And in this example from Calatis, actually the dedication on the plinth is made to the good fortune by the officials of the city, so not at all to Nemesis, but she is featuring the attributes of Nemesis. And even more so, you can observe at a closer look that the statue, the sculpture, was using several models in order to put together his statue. Up to here, with the griffin, you can recognize the here also the structure you might remember from the Eticula from Thomis with the two nemesis, and the upper part, it's actually taken from Fortuna statue structure. In conclusion, the kinds of behavior that Nemesis is opposed to can be summarized as acts which display lack of moderation and humility, which often but not always constitute hubris. Many forms involve active violence, while other, less serious forms may also be manifested in a more broadly defined arrogance, often expressed in words and sometimes particularly associated with lovers, like Narcissus, for instance. The definition of Nemesis as revenger or hubris is sometimes true, but it is too narrow to take account of her opposition to all forms of pride and excessive optimism. While Nemesis herself is a bane for mortal men, from her earliest appearance in Hesiod's Theogony, she develops from the rather passive figure of indignation, which we see in the Works and Days, to take an even more active and indeed violent role in the deliverance of retribution. In literature, at the late Hellenistic and Roman periods, Nemesis actively pursues her opponents, making proud next to bend and rolling misfortune upon the unwary with her will. This is clearly reflected in the goddess iconography, from Agoracritos' majestic but impassive cult statue of Rhamnus, via the Hellenistic nemesis of Smyrna with their measuring rod and bridle, to the later Roman period representations of a winged goddess with a whole armory of attributes, trampling down anyone who has aroused her anger. The depictions and the descriptions of Nemesis include, besides the by now familiar attributes like wheel, griffin, bridle, rod, also the whip, which is described in some texts as the whip of misery, which uses to roll the hopi like a spinning top. Ultimately, then, Nemesis may be opposed to the arrogant violence of mortals, but she is certainly not averse to using violence herself in pursuit of retribution. Thank you very much. I would like to share this. I do not know if we have the time. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much. We will close the streaming and we will continue for the questions after the screen when we close.
I'm sorry, I had one more element to add.
Yeah, perfect.
Is it possible?
Yes, of course.
But I'm not sure if it's technically okay. Just a moment, please. To somehow it's not. No, my computer, I think it's a little bit on strike. I cannot. I cannot get out from full screen. Okay. So, can you hear it?
We can hear you, but we cannot see anything. I mean, we can see the participant and you, but not the screen.
But you can hear the music?
No.
No, okay. Sorry, I should try again. Can you hear it now?
No, but when you share the screen, there is a little thing that you have to click. It's under when you do the sharing screen, there is written share also the audio.
Okay, I will try one more time and then I let it be because
If you want, you can copy and paste the link of YouTube here in chat, and Simonetta, if you want.
Okay, maybe it's better this way. Okay, thank you. Okay, then thank you again, and that will be all for me.
Okay, Professor Alexandrescu, if you wanted to comment, or if you want,
Well,
we can close the streaming.
Yes, this was the interpretation of one of the reenactment groups from for music, ancient music, of the musical part of this Mesomedes hymn I showed in the presentation. There are several, even some with the text. I just thought it's an element you might eventually use when considering this this part of or this deity. There are several hymns by Mesomedes which are used by those reenactment groups. So you can work with this. I think it's one tool, so to speak.
It's
Yes.
a
Otherwise,
beautiful
thank you very much,
suggestion.
and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much to all the participants that attend this masterclass. We will stop now the streaming on YouTube. So please collect your questions, and we will continue the meeting after the stop of the streaming. Thank you to all the participants, to all the partners, and thank you to the professors for this amazing and masterclass, very rich of things, very rich of suggestions, very rich of information that we could also to develop during the international residency in Constanța the next days. Bye bye.